Welcome into Second Down right here on ESPN Radio. Christian Gokel alongside PJ Zuko and Cam Urshry. PJ amped up, excited, fresh fade
Get it
going
out
on.
here.
He's got the fresh fade, and he's throwing chairs out of the way in here. Cam, he's standing up
I'm sick of them.
for this entire hour-long show today. So PJ Zuko fired up. I mean, is it just we're now within a few days of a whiteout up at
Ooh.
Happy Valley?
Woo! It's a lot of stuff, man. It's a lot of stuff. It's that. It's the fresh cut. I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't know about you. Every single time I get a fresh haircut, like beard trim, all that stuff, feel like a brand new person, and just ready to go.
Oh, you get the beard trim. You get somebody else to handle your beard for you.
It depends on. I trimmed it. I trimmed it this time.
Okay.
Depends on who I get to go to. If I get to go to my normal person, yeah. They are very good. They are very good at what they do.
Looking like Hawkeye in here.
Yeah, appreciate it. Wasn't able to go to them yesterday though, but hey, got the fresh cut. Looking forward to a lot of big things over the course of the rest of the week for sure. I mean, you got high school football going on. You got plenty of big games there. You got all our broadcasts that we can't wait for. And then of course, you have, big Georgia game this weekend as well. But
I think it's a bigger game than a lot of people are giving it credit for sure.
Okay, I'm not going to listen to that this week. Well, I might listen to it, but I'm definitely not going to.
You're going to have to listen to it.
I'm definitely not going to pick against the Georgia in the spread. But yeah, of course, you got Whiteout, Happy Valley, night game, college game day. Woo!
Is there okay? So first off, we did a deep dive, Cam. Do you know? And I hope none of the 3 and Out guys are listening because this is a question a little bit later on. Can you tell me what Penn State's stadium is named? I mean, I think Cam maybe muted.
Jimmy? Okay.
There we go.
No, I was saying that's a great question. No, I don't.
I don't know if it's a great question. I'm not doing any journalistic stuff there. I'm just asking if you know what Penn State's. That's what everyone says when they don't actually have an answer. You ask them a question. That's a great question.
Right.
Yeah, I don't have an answer.
That's a great question because I think a lot of people, they think about it and they're like, oh, wait, Kevin just walked in.
Yeah, now we can't do that.
Now we can't.
No, now we can't.
But a lot of people say, just so you know, 5 o'clock coming up on 3 and Out in honor just of the legendary Norm Macdonald, who passed away yesterday. And of course, we lost Alex Trebek not too long ago. We're going to play some Jeopardy coming up on 3 and Out. But this one of the questions revolves around that. But a lot of people say Happy Valley.
Right.
But that's just the area. And I was like, is that the city? And so I looked it up because I was like, but wait, I've heard it's not College Station. There's a college.
State College.
College Station is Texas A&M. State College.
Right.
Is where Penn State is located.
Yeah.
But it's actually in University Park, Pennsylvania.
Right.
But it's technically in some sort of conglomerate, non-affiliated borough subsection.
Yeah.
Parish called Happy Valley.
Sure. Yeah.
Which is literally just an actual depression in the mountains.
Yeah.
And a bunch of different boroughs that have come together. And we looked it up back in the 1930s during the Depression. It wasn't hard hit. So they're calling it Happy Valley.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I actually learned something there too. I didn't know. That's
where you're from.
Yeah, but I never knew why. I was also young when I was there, and then I moved down here, and no one's really just direct. I'm not gonna lie, no one's just directly asked me why is it called Happy Valley. You did today, and I was like, oh crap, I'm not really sure. That's also kind of like a savage reason, don't you think? Like, I mean, that's kind of
everybody else is struggling and broke, and we're
literally, literally the Great Depression, and we're gonna be like, well,
do you think they called
it? We're
the
all right over here.
Did they call it the Great Depression back then, or is that something you realized in hindsight? You're like, wow.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's kind of like what we went through.
We call it the Great Recession.
Yeah.
10 years ago, way more than that now, like 14 years ago. But again,
yeah, it keeps on moving, man.
We were just looking at the whiteout because I think it's gonna be awesome. Again, Auburn is hitting the road now. My question to you is this, PJ.
I think honestly, that's an answer you might get sometimes too.
What's
like,
that?
What's the whatever? And they're like, oh, what whiteout? And they're like, no, that's just an event.
Yeah.
That happens there.
Yeah, and once a year, right? You only pick one whiteout a year.
Yep. There's a lot of different things, right? There's like you got the white out, there's a stripe out now. So it's one of those. Most universities do like their special home games.
But
right?
I'll say
You
this:
got
Penn State
homecoming games,
really
all that stuff.
started that. Like Georgia did their first quote unquote blackout in like 2007 with
Yeah.
Noshawn Moreno and Matt Stafford in them, and you didn't know that they were going to wear the black jerseys, but they just told the fans we want you to wear all black. Penn
Right.
State kind of started the
I think that was back in
sea
like
of one singular color.
yeah, it was a while. It was off and on, and then you had actually a student section whiteout for I think 4 or 5 years in like the late 90s, early 2000s, and then I believe like 2002, 2003 in a game against Notre Dame, it was the first ordered stadium all whiteout, everyone wear white, and since then it's been once a year, and I think the most notable one, everyone thinks the first one is the 2005 win against Ohio State because that was the most notable.
Sure.
Insane upset that's happened during it, maybe only coupled and rivaled by the one in 2016. But
so what are the traditions around it? Because again, College Game Day is on hand in Happy Valley and University Park, Pennsylvania for this one. What are some of the other traditions that go into a Penn State game?
Oh, I think one of the coolest ones is Nittanyville that you have. It used to be, called anyway in Nittanyville. Now that you have college students, and you might have this other places, I'm not sure, but you have college students camping out in front of the stadium, actually in tents and whatever, before the game. And actually, there were tents out for the Auburn game before the Ball State game.
Yeah.
So
Dang.
I saw a video.
Oh no, there's already kids out there. I saw it on ESPN.
Yeah,
there's already people. I gotta coach. We gotta go to the phones real quick. Bob in Savannah wants to talk some Happy Valley with us. Bob, what you got?
About that?
Yeah, I was going to tell you guys basically with Happy Valley. So you got University Park, which is pretty much the grounds where the university is. Surrounding University Park on most sides is what's known as the town of State College. So it's almost like if you had a nut in the middle or a seed inside of a cherry, that would be University Park. And State College is kind of around it. And as far as Happy Valley goes, it's kind of become there's no like official location. That whole region there, right below Mount Nittany, which is a beautiful, beautiful valley. As since you talked about since Depression, it's just become a very pleasant place. So it's almost like a slang term. Like you won't see a sign that says this is Happy Valley,
Right?
but it is Happy Valley. It's like saying I live on Millionaire's Acres. If I had a street with all homes that were worth $7 million, that might be Millionaire Acres, even though the sign's not there. So Happy Valley is a pleasant slang term they use.
Well, Bob, we really appreciate the call, man. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Take care.
Again, hey, that's what we're kind of getting out of it. We really appreciate the call there from Bob. And if you're listening right now, 912-342-7184. If you want to call and tell us what your favorite city is to visit for a college football game, what your favorite tradition is, that's what we'll be talking about today here on Second Down. But yeah, that great points there from Bob. It's really, like he said, kind of just become a slang term. That's kind of what we got from it. But I think it's funny because it's kind of how people refer to as Atlanta. I know it's kind of different because Happy Valley isn't the official name of anything in Atlanta, obviously a city, but literally if you ask me or Kevin where we're from, we'll just say we're from Atlanta, because it's so hard to just be like, well, I'm actually from Sandy Springs or I'm actually from Lawrenceville. Inside, it's just like everyone said things like breaks Georgia up in their mind is like Atlanta is the north part of Georgia, and then you have South Georgia.
Right.
Whereas Atlanta is actually a relatively small, in terms of size-wise, city. It's huge population-wise, but size-wise is actually small. Metro Atlanta is huge.
Yeah.
But I do like it. Happy Valley. It just kind of exists in the ether.
No, yeah, exactly. It's a great, like you said, it's a great little term and nickname for all those different places. And like you were talking about, I mean, I love looking that up and seeing more about it because I always thought it was funny growing up. I thought it was funny that Bob just came on here and schooled you about where you're from. Well, I mean, I had 12 years there, and they were the first 12 years of my life.
Hey,
okay,
listen. Bob just took you to school.
He absolutely did, and I appreciate it for sure. But like you said, he almost referenced. By the way, he flipped it up to a seed and a fruit, which I very much enjoyed because he almost said something about a nut, and I'm like, you can't talk about Buckeyes and nuts when you're trying to describe State College,
true.
Bob. That was very close, but no, he hit it on the head for sure. Because like you said, there's so many different little names, just like Atlanta. There's so many different little names and little places inside that valley. That, like, even if you're on Mount Nittany or whatever, 90% of the time you're just going to say, I'm from State College.
Sure.
I'm from 20 minutes away from State College on a different mountain called Snowshoe, but I say I'm from State College because, I mean, everyone's going to know where that is. No one's going to know where Snowshoe is. So, and Pennsylvania is very funny too, because like you were talking about with
Because of the way they pronounce room and
the
roof.
counties and the townships and whatnot, we have all of them. There's like, you have counties and then you have townships and like boroughs inside of the county, and then you have conglomerates and whatever.
Funny thing about
things.
Georgia, I think Georgia has, outside of Texas, Georgia's not an overly big land-wise state. It's bigger than a lot of the northern states, but I think Pennsylvania might actually be bigger, like square mileage wise.
It's one of the biggest
than
in the country,
Georgia is, but Georgia has more counties than any other state in the country except for Texas, which has got to be like 3 times bigger than Georgia. But it's ridiculous the amount of counties the state has. Almost as ridiculous as Kevin's hair right now, because oh my goodness.
You got a hat today?
Oh, Kevin Thomas dropping it. This is Kevin Thomas talk. Kevin Thomas saying Georgia is the largest state east of the Mississippi.
That's what he said.
That doesn't seem correct.
I mean, it's from Kevin Thomas's mouth. So I mean, you can argue it if you want to, but you're probably going to be wrong.
It might be,
in Kevin's mind.
Is it bigger land mass than Florida?
Right? That'd be hard to believe.
Maybe.
You got the whole panhandle there, unless you're counting the panhandle as a different country or a different state, which I mean,
as you probably should.
You might want to. Yeah,
they're built different on the panhandle there. But we got more to get to here. I do want to dive into more college football traditions. We just spent 15 minutes talking about Penn State football, but listen, it's their week. They're doing a whiteout against Auburn.
I didn't even ask for this.
Top 25 matchup. I think we said this like 7 times already this year. It's a prove it game.
Yeah.
But it is too. It's 2 teams we don't really know how good they are. Penn State's gotten a big win week 1, but it was kind of a defensive struggle. If they can handle Auburn, I think it kind of solidifies them as a legit contender coming up. Auburn, they played 2 bad teams.
Yeah.
And they've housed them like you're supposed to do, but we just don't know how good Auburn is. So I'm really excited for that one. We got some Georgia news to dive into, but I do want to get back into some of the stadium traditions, because I think we're going to see some cool stuff coming up this weekend. We got more to come here on Second Down. We'll dive into all of that, and we'll get you an answer on, is Kevin right about Georgia being the biggest state east of the Mississippi?
Very interested in
That's very important. Yeah. We'll dive into all that next here on your geographical resource show, Second Down on ESPN Radio. We were loud wrong in that last segment.
On a lot of different things.
My eighth grade teacher would be very upset with me. Kevin Thomas, right, nails it, comes in and drops a bomb on us. Georgia, the largest state by per square mileage east of the Mississippi. But the fun fact inside of that is if you're just taking in all 50 states, Georgia comes in at number 21.
Right. Yeah, solid.
So like we found something that the West Coast dominates in, and it's just land per state. It ain't football.
No, absolutely not. You know, they took what the East, they looked at the East and they said, look at all these tiny states. No. We don't want to have more than 50, 40 something. Let's just make all these as big as possible.
They're giant.
They're
like Minnesota, huge. Minnesota comes in at number 14 at 79,000 square land miles. Right? Georgia has 57.
Right. All I'm saying
nuts.
Is you want to take that victory West Coast. All I'm saying there's a lot of green grass and pastures out there. We at least have things on the East Coast, cities,
it's true,
and events and fun things to do.
I will say this, PJ. Alabama comes in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spots ahead of Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
so
I do want to.
So they have more room for it to mean more.
Absolutely, and I understand that now. A lot of my years have kind of been built on a lie, and I want to apologize for that. I will say it's like I want to kind of make this how someone says something they're not supposed to, or like a broadcaster lets a word slip or something like that on a broadcast.
And Nick Castellanos hits a high drive to left center field.
I want to come back. I'm going to come back and apologize here for what I said. I did say, quote, yeah, Pennsylvania is it's pretty big. It's one of the biggest states in the country. And it's factually
by definition, it's below average.
Yeah. Well, it is Big Ten country, so we're pretty good. But
well, I mean, I'm thinking now. I'm thinking if you're calling it the Big Ten country, Minnesota is actually carrying the weight.
Right? Is it really the Big Ten? Maybe it should be the Big 12, and we should be kind of there 10. I don't know.
I think that's why the SEC went and added Oklahoma and Missouri, because they come in at 18 and 19. So you're just looking for land mass.
Oh no, I got it. Big Ten,
like the SEC
east of the Mississippi.
The SEC's playing Risk,
right? Well,
because the Pac-12's got it locked down right now, and you're just trying to play catch up.
They're playing Risk in landmass and with teams, because they're literally just wanting everyone in the country to play in the SEC. So we're
it's wild. Cam, what do you have for us on just land population across the states of the United States? What do you got for us, Cam?
I just didn't know Georgia was the largest, but I mean, Kevin was right. Who's the second largest on the East Coast then?
It hurts me to say that, but Kevin was right.
Well, that's what it's. You just roll your eyes and keep on moving forward every time Kevin proves you wrong, because
it doesn't happen very often.
We'll hear about it for the rest of the week.
No, Kevin will come in and break down population bases and what county has a seat and how many people per square mile live in this county. It's Kevin's favorite thing to do. Kevin probably still buys like maps from gas stations and almanacs and all the good stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, transitioning away from Kevin being right, because we're going to spend as little time on that as possible. Cam, you are younger than PJ and I by a good amount.
You didn't have to throw that in there.
And he's also young in his college football fandom. But I'm curious, Cam, what have become some of your favorite things to see tradition-wise inside of college football? What brings you to a certain game because you want to see it? If any, what have become some of your favorite traditions?
Traditions? I mean, I don't really have favorite traditions. I mean, I like seeing fans in the stands just have a good time. I know I was watching a video, my friend sent a video of Auburn doing the swag surf a few years ago. That was kind of cool. The jump up. It's I like those type of traditions. I guess you could say that.
I don't know. Let's just go through and just inundate him with a lot of traditions, PJ, because I was just thinking about this as I put together Jeopardy for today. I love, obviously everyone was focused on two these past couple of weeks. You had Camp Randall doing jump around Wisconsin at the beginning of the fourth quarter, which is just awesome. And then you had Lane Stadium with Virginia Tech's intro to Enter Sandman from Metallica, where they're jumping up and down, like literally the entire stadium's jumping up and down. I think that's awesome. But I mean, I think there's just like so many cool smaller traditions at each university. Like Tennessee, you have the Vol Navy, where it's like literally the stadium is up against a river, and so they can bring boats up and people just drive their boats to the game and will tailgate on the boats and get off. They actually had like a fire and some boats sank in the not too distant past up there, which a lot of people were like, well, this just describes where we're at as a football program right now. It was like it was the low point for Tennessee football. But I mean, the Vol Navy is awesome. I think Bryant Denny, Dixieland Delight, I think it's typically at the end of the third quarter, going into the fourth quarter, they'll sing that, which is funny. It's a Tennessee Saturday night.
Yeah.
But still, the band who wrote it is Alabama,
right.
and it's Dixieland Delight, and the way they add their own words into it. I'm not going to repeat it, but I will say it does exist on YouTube. I'm not suggesting you go look it up, but it does exist on YouTube. There's so many cool. Obviously, Howard's Rock at Clemson is pretty cool, even though, running down look pretty dangerous. I think they did remember when they did sports sciences?
Yeah.
They said like dudes would like get a running start because it drops down like really fast. And they said guys would be 6 feet in the air, like running down, hitting that ledge, and they kind of jump. And then all of a sudden they look down and it's like,
oh God.
It's it's like you double jumped in Mario.
Right.
And I do think people have been hurt. Nobody no significant injuries to players, I believe, but people have gotten hurt.
Yeah.
Like just kind of coming down. Because again, you weigh 300 pounds and you're 6 feet in the air. All of a sudden, gravity, that force.
It comes into play.
Big play, especially when you weigh 300 pounds. The big boys don't land like the 180-pound guys.
Oh, no.
So, I mean, it's Clemson's awesome. I think Death Valley, the real Death Valley.
Yeah.
Hold on, test. Which one's the real Death Valley?
LSU.
I'd say,
LSU.
yeah. I mean, it's to me, it's a more intimidating place to play. It's actually Death Valley, like you said. It's not just from a rock. From
because
Death,
they're both the
Death
Tigers.
Valley.
They both call it Death Valley.
And I'm sorry, it's actually Death Valley because there's something now. They took him out, but everyone knows
Tiger,
this is my favorite live mascot in sports. I mean, you have something in the stadium that could make it a real Death Valley real quick. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, they used to have Mike the Tiger in a cage next to where the visiting team's locker room was. And so the players, I think Ben can tell you about this, the players that were visiting LSU would walk out of their locker room and there would be a literal live tiger snarling at them as they walked out. But also the fact that it holds like 14
that would scare me.
1,000 more people.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And they go insane on, a given Saturday night with LSU wearing purple. Whew.
Oh,
I think
if LSU,
awesome.
when LSU's like competitive,
yeah,
and they're playing a home game at night, that's the most intimidating atmosphere in college football. I think the whiteout is the coolest atmosphere,
right?
And it gets loud. There's a great video. Who are y'all playing? There's a great video of the not too distant past. I think Michigan was at Penn State. Shea Patterson came out to take the first snap, and it was so loud that they had to take a timeout on the first play of the game.
Right. It was incredible.
But
like
the real Death Valley
and everything. Yeah.
Real Death Valley is LSU.
Yeah, no. I completely agree with that. I think one of the coolest fan-involved traditions as well that actually I think you brought up a couple weeks ago is another Big Ten school, and it's Iowa. Turning around at the end of the third quarter and waving
to the Children's
Hospital, just hanging over the stadium, which I think is fantastic. But I think you named a ton of those. I think one of the coolest atmospheres / fan traditions as well is when Washington is good. When Washington is good, that can be a insane place to play.
Yeah, I think Autzen Stadium with Oregon is a really cool place to play.
You got the duck riding out in the motorcycle too in the beginning of the game.
Georgia Tech, Bobby Dodd Stadium to me is the most beautiful stadium in college football for night game. Day games, I'll say it's the most beautiful just landscape in college football because it's literally built in the middle of downtown Atlanta and it's an old stadium. It might be the oldest continually active on-campus stadium in America.
Right.
Because it hasn't moved.
Yeah.
But it's gorgeous, and it's not like the full bowl stadium. It's kind of broken up into 4 sections, and so you get the views in the corners of the city of Atlanta, and especially at night when downtown's lit up.
Yeah.
and Georgia Tech's good,
Right.
and that stadium's full. I don't think it gets a lot prettier than Bobby Dodd, but the Ramblin' Wreck driving out onto the field
Yeah.
before the game is awesome. But a ton of cool traditions. And then, go ahead.
I don't know if I'm allowed to call it this anymore, but I think one of the kind of better forgotten about rivalries in college football is the Holy War with BYU
Oh yeah, no,
and,
you call it that.
and
Yeah.
Utah. And whenever it's at BYU, which by the way, I mean, if you love mountains, I mean that out there in Provo,
Yeah.
they have the stadium right at the base of the mountains, which I mean out there Northeast, you have a lot of rolling mountains and things like that, and it's gorgeous in its own right. But you go out west and see those mountains, holy cow. Anyway,
Yeah, we kind of have like the slumpy, smooth mountains over here because they're older. They're older.
Yeah, and
We
they're
got the
great in their own right.
We got the old mountains. They
Right.
have those cool, ragged, wretched new mountains that
Yeah,
are
I
just
mean,
all popping up and
they're
stuff.
insane. Yeah, you got the snow on the top in the middle of the
Mhm.
summer.
They're like super sharp.
Yeah, but I love it. Basically, every single time they play at BYU, some students find a way to get up to the big Y. I don't know if it's a statue or what in the stones in the mountain, and find a way to paint it black or red.
Yeah.
With the Utah color. So I think that's
pretty
cool. I mean, there's a lot of different things out there that's like.
Well, I mean,
that.
Georgia Southern, Cam, pulling up in the yellow school buses.
Yeah.
To Paulson Stadium. They'll drive the players there in like the old school yellow school buses. They get up there, the buses are rocking back and forth, and then you have the Eagle Walk going into Paulson Stadium. I think that's really cool. I think Paulson too is still a really good stadium. I mean, I think it's 25,000 is the max capacity for seats, but then you have standing room and some like the grassy areas as well. So I would not be surprised if some of these games, in terms of people like actually around watching the game, is closer to 30,000 at Paulson, which is awesome.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. I think it's just to kind of like circle it back here, I guess, to bookend it, but
please don't.
It's no, I don't want to either. Really, I don't want it to end, and just to bring it back to. But you have the whiteout and all that. It's funny. It's interesting to me the similarities between Georgia Southern and Penn State, because you have the uniforms, which are very similar, but you also
is like Alabama and Penn State had a baby with those uniforms.
Yeah. And you don't have the yellow school buses at Penn State. You have the blue buses, which the guys roll up in to come into the stadium. So it's basically same school buses, things like that, just painted blue. That the football team, the coaches, all that arrive in to walk into Beaver Stadium. So it's interesting.
You have the GATA at Georgia Southern.
Absolutely not.
It's awesome.
Oh! I thought
you squeeze me.
I thought you were about to. I thought you were like, oh, you got that too at Penn State, like making a joke. But
wow, you said that pretty.
I assumed.
Said that fast.
That's my fault.
No,
you know
I
what
mean,
they say about assuming.
Yeah, but I mean, PJ,
Should not have done that.
That was very elitist of you. You're like, absolutely not.
No.
We would never do such a thing.
Oh man, I love the GAT. I love everything about Georgia Southern and.
Didn't sound like it.
I thought you
didn't say no. That's not us. You hit us. You hit us with
an
an absolutely not.
I was thinking of letters. It just wouldn't make any sense. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna let the anger from the Georgia Southern fans out there listening flow through.
As it should.
And hit you.
As it should. I'm gonna have to make an apology when we come back.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
We'll let you simmer on that. We'll end on that note. PJ just absolutely.
It's not how I meant it. All right. It's not. It didn't.
A loved 4 letters.
It's not what I meant.
And the Georgia Southern vernacular.
I think that's fantastic. I think the way they use.
Wow, now you're being even more like that's cool for those little guys.
I'm not being at all.
We're gonna take a break before PJ digs this hole any deeper.
I'm really good.
Second Down on ESPN Radio is presented to you by the Uniform Source. Wrapping up our kind of traditions talk there. Doug writes in on Facebook, light up Sanford Stadium is cool. Yeah, they play Krypton. That one's end of the third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter kind of thing. It's really cool, especially at night games. Everybody turns their cell phone flashlights on. It's a relatively new tradition for Georgia, but I think a really cool one. Georgia they definitely have some traditions at Sanford Stadium. They have the trumpet that plays prior to the game. But man, I was just thinking about Tennessee. I don't know why I'm stuck on Tennessee with this, but like running out of the tee. And I don't know if anybody everyone like always rides for Hail to the Victor for USC as a fight song. Cam, did you play the NCAA football games growing up?
Oh, of course. Of course.
So like, but were you playing the ones where they got kind of edgy and like started throwing like pop music into it? Or are you playing the ones where the only music option you had were the fight songs?
I started playing like in 2007 with Reggie Bush on the cover. So I think I got the best of both.
The fight song ones.
Yeah.
Because
I think I got
like
the best
that was
of
my
both
education
worlds.
on fight songs. I know so many fight songs, and it's literally just for like spending hours in the menu editing my roster in NCAA football. Like before you could do downloadable rosters.
Right. Renaming guys,
you
getting
had
the size right.
You get the numbers right, the year right, all of it, 1,000%. So
Did you do their equipment?
I mean, yeah, obviously.
Okay, all right. I'm just making sure. I didn't know how committed we were here.
You have to.
I just wanted to make sure that me and you were on the same level of that.
But Tennessee, man, just like running out of the tee, and I think everyone rides for like Hail to the Victor. I think Rocky Top might be the best fight song.
Rocky Top is great. Right. No matter how, I guess if you're playing against Tennessee that day, no matter how annoying it can get, how many times you hear.
No, the only annoying thing I've ever
great.
heard from Tennessee is when they did third down for what. I don't know if you remember this, Cam, but in the not too distant past, they had the Little John turn down for what. But every time their defense was on the field and the opponent had a third down, it was that. But instead of turn down for what, it was third down for what.
That's pretty corny.
Had that beat drop like 7 times in 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's pretty corny.
If you don't remember that, it's a very interesting time.
It was almost as annoying as Vuvuzelas.
Yeah. No, I thought Vuvuzelas were great.
The constant buzz that sounded like a bee.
Kind of, yeah.
It sounded like there's a giant swarm of
bees
great, outside of the World Cup stadiums.
Yeah, it's culture, man. It's fantastic. I thought it was cool. I kind of miss it, you know?
I do find it fascinating, speaking of traditions, that like Mississippi State has been grandfathered in with the cowbells.
Oh, I think that's amazing.
Because typically you're not allowed to bring artificial noisemakers into stadiums.
Right.
The Falcons found out about that because they were pumping crowd noise and lost a draft pick. But you're typically not allowed to bring something that makes extra noise.
That might be something they're thinking about week 5 or 6.
Yeah, but specifically before or during a play, right? That's the thing is you can blast music, but when the play's about to start, you have to cut the music off. Right. Mississippi State, they just got cowbells in there going.
Yeah, man.
And I thought North Carolina State, even though they ended up getting their butts whooped this past weekend, they did something pretty funny on social media where they had like their quarterbacks in the QB room, like doing a meeting, and they'd have like a quarterback just sitting there hitting a cowbell while they were going over the plays and the gameplay and just, staying mentally prepared.
Absolutely.
For the game coming up. But I'll say this, unless you've been on a college football field with 80 to 100,000 people in the stands just screaming, I know like teams try to do like artificial crowd noise to get them ready, but it's not just a noise.
Yeah.
It's like an actual, like, I don't want to say electricity because that's kind of cliche, but it's like an actual like physical attribute that you can feel.
Right.
You can feel the ground shaking. It feels like the air gets thicker. It's a really cool experience to be on the field with 100,000 people. I'm not actually like between the lines, but standing on the field as a reporter with 100,000 people screaming. It's nuts.
And you can imagine like the anxiety that comes with it. There's, like you said, everything's just like the walls are closing in. It's harder to breathe a little bit. Obviously, it's harder to focus and think what you need to do. And like you said, there's not a very good way to replicate that. Like you can do that with a cowbell in the meeting room and whatever, but then multiply that by 80,000, and that's a whole nother level of distraction, right? That's a whole nother level of anxiety and whatnot when you step on the field. So you can try and replicate it, but it's
almost
tough.
Claustrophobic is, I guess, the best way I can do it is you're in an open air stadium. It's a huge stadium, but again, there's 100,000 people.
right.
just screaming at you.
Basically
it's-
standing on top
Yeah,
of you.
and
I
it's,
mean,
it's like it literally feels like the air is compressing in.
right.
It's awesome. Like I love every single part of it. I've been to NFL games on the field before, nowhere close to that kind. I haven't been to Seattle, and I've heard Seattle comes pretty close to doing that, just the way their stadium's set up. But just in terms of like atmosphere,
Right.
it doesn't get close to that. I'm sure like European soccer, I've been to some of those games, but like it's nuts. But all right, we're gonna get off this tangent. We do have some news to dive into. Kirby Smart has updated, I guess, in a very Kirby Smart way, the quarterback situation for Georgia, saying that JT Daniels is as good as he has been in this recovery. And he said he felt really good. Like if they needed him against UAB, he could have played.
Yeah.
And then they said that was the best he had felt. And they said continuing it, it's an oblique injury. Everything that he has said from Ron Corson it's just an injury that takes time to heal, and it needs rest. You don't want to aggravate it. And Stetson Bennett apparently is dealing with a lower back issue. I don't even want to call it an injury, an issue, some tightness in his lower back, but they said he'll be able to go if need be. My question is to you guys, could Georgia roll out there with Carson Beck and beat South Carolina?
Ooh, I think they could. I think it'd be much more interesting. I think it's a possibility, but I would feel insanely more comfortable if you roll out there with Stetson Bennett, even with a tighter back, just because of what we saw from him, what we've seen from him in the past, and what we've talked about. I think there's no doubt that you can go out there and certainly handle the game with a Stetson Bennett instead of a JT Daniels, and let JT Daniels get back to 100%. Because like you said, I don't really like that terminology. Like, he's as good as he's been so far. Okay, great. But it doesn't sound like he's ready. And you don't want, like we've talked about.
Well, reports are that him and Stetson are splitting snaps
right
at practice, but what does that mean?
To me, that sounds like you're trying to get him warmed back up. You're trying to ease him back in.
Well, I just don't know what it means. Like, is he in live fire? And obviously nobody's hitting a quarterback, but like, does that just mean in indie drills he's throwing the football around, or in 11-11 is he back there throwing the football around?
Right.
I guess my concern is this, Cam, maybe not so much South Carolina, which I don't want to overlook South Carolina, because again, just 2 years ago, they came to Athens, picked you off 3 times, and beat you in overtime 20-17. I don't want to overlook South Carolina. They have a really good defensive line. They got some linebackers. Kevin Harris will go for 200 yards on you if you let him. I think the quarterback for South Carolina is probably going to be the biggest deciding factor, because Zeb Noland, it was fun for a week, but he was bad against East Carolina last week, and they had to drive down the field and kick a game-winning field goal as time expired to beat East Carolina. Actually, was that 17-14 or 2017?
2017, I believe.
For East Carolina, which is funny because that's the score they beat you by 2 years ago if you're Georgia. But their defensive front, I think, can make things interesting, because Georgia's offensive line hasn't been great as of yet. You had a bunch of busted coverages for UAB where you just had guys running wide open, and you're able to get the ball out quick. You haven't really had to run the football outside of that 4-minute drill against Clemson, which I thought that was the best drive I've seen from Georgia so far this year, where they just ate that clock up and you took a knee on the 11.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, probably if you wanted to put up more points, you could have in that situation, but Georgia was driving. I think South Carolina can make this one interesting for like a quarter and a half, especially if you're rocking with an 80% JT Daniels or 80% Stetson Bennett.
Yeah. I can see that for a little bit. I can see that for a little bit. You make it interesting. And, hopefully, but I think that's kind of the plus two of this situation. Obviously you want to go in with your starting quarterback and whatnot, but as long as you have them ready to go, right? Because I think that's a key thing also. He could have gone in if they needed it. Stetson could probably go if they needed it.
Right.
If you roll in with Carson Beck and it's 7-3 South Carolina in the second quarter, I think that's when you can look over and say, all right, we need JT right now. All right, we need Stetson right now.
Kirby brought up a good point. It's hard to get 3 quarterbacks ready. Like, you can split snaps, but there's only so many snaps to go around with the first team offense. So it's hard to get 3 quarterbacks ready. But Cam, I think the concern now isn't so much South Carolina, which that's the number one concern. You want to win that game. But I think, like, looking at it broad point of view, are you concerned that, like, if JT Daniels has to sit out for 3 weeks, Is he going to be ready to rock against Arkansas, a team that just knocked off Texas? Is he going to be comfortable and ready to go when you have to go out to Auburn? I think maybe macro, that's kind of where Georgia fans are right now.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned because of the fact, like you said, he's going to be a little bit rusty when he goes into those games against Auburn, um, Arkansas, and even if he comes back to South Carolina, I can see a little rust happening. As far as Carson Beck and Stetson Bennett run the role with Stetson, he's just more reliant. I mean, he took down Auburn and Tennessee last year, even though they both had down years. It's still Auburn and Tennessee. You can rely on him, but I'm not looking past this game. South Carolina, they always get us. You know this, Christian. They always get us when we least expect it. So, I put the best quarterback out there and let's just try to win this game and move forward.
Again, that one coming up at 7 o'clock on Saturday. We got more to come here on Second Down. We'll be right back after this. Second Down on ESPN Radio is presented to you by the Uniform Source. Big show coming up on 3 and Out. We'll catch up with Jamie Bradford from JB and Goldwater, talking South Carolina at Georgia with him. We'll also be joined by Corey Woodruff with the Falcoholic. The Falcons taking on the Buccaneers coming up on Sunday, and good luck to the Atlanta Falcons. And really, just thoughts with Matt Ryan. I just hope he can just comes back in one piece from that trip, but we'll catch up with Corey Woodruff in the 4 o'clock hour. And then 5:30, I'm excited for this one. Former Ware County Gator and former Georgia defensive lineman, Big Gerald Anderson.
Oh, yeah.
Going to join the show, talk about this Georgia defensive line. I thought it was funny yesterday. Ben got a little upset at old Shane Beamer saying this is the best Georgia team of all time, because I think Ben maybe has a little bit of nostalgia or a little bit of painful memories from playing the Marcus Strouds and the Richard Seymours of the world when he was in college. He did tell a great story about just kind of going in motion against Richard Seymour and just looking at Richard Seymour and going, oh my God, he's about to destroy this play.
Yeah.
And then Richard Seymour destroyed that play. So really interested to talk to Gerald Anderson, get his opinion on that, because he's a guy who's played, and he was one of them. He was a great defensive lineman, and he played alongside a bunch of them. So curious to get his opinion on this one. But again, a lot of big spreads coming up in what in other years I think would be big games. You have Georgia Tech as 28.5-point dogs at Clemson. South Carolina is a 30-point road dog to Georgia. Florida at home, 14.5-point dog to Alabama. And Georgia Southern on the road at Arkansas, 23.5-point dog.
Yeah.
Out of all of those, if one team can do it, because there's no way all 4 of those go according to plan. If one team out of those 4 I mentioned can do it, who do you think it is?
I think I'm going to make a lot of people mad here, but I think it is Georgia and South Carolina. Not because I think South Carolina is going to come out and play them within 7, but I think Vegas is certainly doing what they do, man, and they're taking advantage of a huge Georgia win last week where you had guys running wide open, and you're trying to take advantage of that a little bit and maybe hit it with a bigger spread than it should be against South Carolina. I don't know. We'll see, though.
We'll do our picks on Friday, but again, big show coming up on 3 and Out. If you miss any portion of our show, you can check it out on ESPNCoastal.com, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud as well, and, of course, Spotify. If you want to listen live, take us with you wherever you go, ESPNCoastal.com. Jamie Bradford coming up in the 3 o'clock hour previewing Georgia and South Carolina. That's up next on 3 and Out.